Now, every project and every task that we decide to work on takes a certain amount of attention and energy and focus to get done.
Right.
Okay? So, whatever you want to do, you're going to have to expend some energy doing it. The question is how to do that most effectively.
Okay.
Now, we can invert that and ask, well, what does not effective look like?
Okay.
Okay, and this is actually a concept called the cognitive switching penalty.
Okay.
And one of the things that has been very popular for the past couple of years is what's sometimes called multitasking. So you've got 30 different things, you're trying to juggle them all at the same time. And, people who have learned to cope with multitasking typically pride themselves in it quite a bit.
Yes.
It's like, I can handle 50 things at once. It's good. They've actually done quite a bit of research on this, the psychological community at large. And what they found is that multitasking is actually the least efficient way to do any of this stuff. And the cognitive switching penalty is one of the reasons why. Okay, so one of the things that they found is that we can only pay attention to, we can only focus on something, one thing at a time.
Yeah.
That's it. And people who think they're multitasking are actually just rapidly switching their attention between all of these inputs, right? Now, every time we switch our attention or our focus from one thing to another, your brain has to load everything that's associated with that particular task. And that takes time and it takes energy. And so when you switch, you're dropping what you're focusing on and your brain has to reload all of this stuff that is required for you to do the job.
Interesting.
Okay? So the more you are switching, the more times you have to load and reload all of this stuff.
Right, and the less time you're actually working.
Exactly. Which is why it's such a big impact on performance.
Yeah.
When you're multitasking, it's far better to load the context for something once, focus on it, get it done, stop, and then shift your attention to something else. That way you don't have to load and reload and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And, in some fields, like computer programming is a great example of this. For some complex problems, it takes a good 15, 20, 30 minutes to really load the context.
Like get
into
in the
your
zone.
brain. Yeah, to get in the zone. And so, if a programmer just gets into the zone and a coworker stops by and says, hey, can I bother you for a minute?
Right.
Or the phone rings, or a manager sends an email, says, I need your TPS report by 5 o'clock today. Guess what's happening to that program?
Right. That program's done.
Done. Yeah. So this is actually something that Paul Graham is a venture capitalist and an essayist. Writes a lot of really great stuff. And one essay that I found was really valuable here is he called it Maker Schedule, Manager Schedule.
Yes.
And a manager schedule is usually cut up in, 15, 30-minute, hour blocks of, meeting. If you want to make something, if you want to create something, that's like the worst schedule ever. Because you have to constantly, your attention is so split. And that, in a meeting, you can shift your attention, on an hourly basis. If you're trying to create something.
Right, loading up the context takes a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, loading up the context may take half an hour. And then, that shoots your productivity, if you're trying to do something important. So, as a general rule, try to structure your schedule. If you're creating something, try to structure your schedule with as few interruptions as possible. One of the things that we do, a little bit of behind the scenes for this video, is before we start shooting, we pull the telephone cord out from the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Done. Because, not only would it be really horrible if the phone rang during one of these things, but we're loading up the context of what we're trying to do, which is shoot a good video for you. And if the phone rings and we had a different conversation, it would take a little while to get back into the groove of doing this.
Right.
So, by loading it once, and we actually batch all of the shooting for the video, by doing that allows us to be more productive and fit the shoot into a shorter period of time because we don't have to switch our attention so long. So as general rule, as few interruptions as you possibly can, and don't switch your attention, don't multitask.
And I would say if you think you're a major multitasker like I used to, try it out.
Yeah.
And one of the studies that I read actually to make me go, wow, maybe I should try this is the study that they did about driving and talking on the phone.
Yep.
Apparently, this kind of blew my mind at the beginning, but apparently if someone is driving and talking on the phone, even one of those like Bluetooth things that you don't have to hold, you have about the same like functional capacity as someone who is drunk.
Yep.
That freaks me out.
Because you're shifting your attention back and forth.
Because really you're paying attention to that and then this and then that and then this. So anyways, even if you are a major multitasker and proud of it like I was, try. You'll probably be amazed at what you can do.
Yeah, and you'll probably find that you can do far more useful things in a shorter period of time with less stress if you don't switch as often. Cognitive switching penalty.